Good evening, everyone. This is your Right Geek and Honorary Man King here with another video. And I was just listening to your boy Zach's video on the most recent X-Men comic, the one that he entitled Nuke Krakoa, it's the only way to be sure. And I was inspired to share with you a blog post written by an acquaintance of mine. Her name is Sarah Hoyt. She is a science fiction author and one whom I have corresponded with on many an occasion. She wrote this post in response to trends in the science fiction community that I think share a lot in common with trends that we're seeing in mainstream comics coming out of the big two. So let me share these bullet points with you, and then you can comment below and see if these resonate with you. 1. You are allowed to write escapist science fiction, or fantasy, or superhero comics. Sometimes we just need a good read. If it doesn't have a big idea but is enjoyable, it's still a worthy endeavor. You are allowed to write as much as you wish. In the new limitless market, we see no reason to artificially restrict your output. Anyone who thinks quality depends on how long something took to write has never known either professional writers or struggling middle graders. You are allowed to write first person. You are also allowed to write second person, third person, and in persons yet to be invented. As long as your work is entertaining, we hold you harmless in matters relating to verbal malfeasance. If your world building holds internal consistency, at least according to the buying public, anyone objecting because it doesn't conform to his or her idea of a future shall be pelted with soft-boiled eggs and wear the yoke of shame. Your objective is to sell books. Writing is communication. Your objective is to communicate with as many people as possible, or at least to amuse them, distract them, or make the burden of life less burdensome for a while. Wishing to feed your family is also an acceptable goal. This is an important one. You can write male heroes. You can write female heroes. You can write alien heroes. You can write human heroes. You can write Western heroes. You can write non-Western heroes. You can write squirrel heroes, but you have to know you're weird. You can write it in a boat. You can write it with a goat. But which end do you hold the paper? Hold on the paper. You can write it in a moat, but it will probably drip, and you can write it on a stoat. I like that bullet point. Basically, it doesn't matter who your main character is, as long as they're a hero. You can have a happy ever after. You can have a happy for a while. You can have a fleeting happy. It's your happy, and you can have it if you want to. You can write action and plot-oriented books. Who will stop you? You've researched fighting techniques, right? You can write sex. Or not. It all depends on what fits the plot. You could even write sex with a robot. You can write politics. You can write them from the right, from the left, from the middle, the top, the bottom, or everywhere at once. Just remember to make them fit the plot. That's important. And remember not to info dump. So do we have no principles? No guidelines? Oh, it's guidelines you want then. Well, I was manifesting, but fine. I'll throw out a few simple rules. 1. Your writing should be entertaining. If you're writing for the awards and the literary recognition, you're hanging out with the wrong crowd. 2. Your writing shouldn't leave anyone feeling like they should scrub with pumice or commit suicide by swallowing stoats for the crime of being human, or like humans are a blight upon the earth, or that the future is dark, dreary, evil, and fraught with nastiness, because that's all humans can do, and woe is us. 3. Your writing should not leave anyone feeling ashamed of being male, female, Western, non-Western, sickly, hale, powerful, or powerless. It should use characters as characters, and not as broad groups that are then used to shame other groups. Fiction is not agitprop. 4. Your writing shouldn't be all about the message. You can, of course, have a message, but the message should not be the be-all and end-all of the novel. If it is, perhaps you should be writing pamphlets. 5. You shall not commit grey goo. Grey goo, in which characters of indeterminate moral status move in a landscape of indeterminate impotence toward goals that will leave no one better or worse off, is not entertaining. 6. Unless absolutely necessary, you will have a positive feeling to your story. By this we don't mean it will have a happy ending, or that we expect Pollyanna sentiments out of you. Your novel and setting can be as dystopic as you want it. In fact, your character can die at the end. Just make sure he goes down fighting. and dies for something so the reader doesn't feel cheated. 7. You will write in language that can be understood. You will have an idea of what your story is about, or at least of its beginning, middle, and end, and so will your reader once he reads it. 8. You are allowed to write scientific speculation that counters currently established fact. Just give us a reason why that makes sense in your universe. For some universes, it can be highly whimsical. For others, you'll need serious hand-wavium. 9. You will not be boring, or at least you'll do your best not to be boring. So no Wikipedia articles on pollen, please. 10. You shall not spend your life explaining why your not boring is better than your fellow writer's not boring. Instead, you will shut up and write. So what do you guys think of that? Does that resonate with all of you? Does that sound like what the comics community here on YouTube also wants in their comics? I think it does. I think that the current frustration with how our heroes are being written as basically not heroes is reflected in this post written by my acquaintance Sarah Hoyt. Comment below if you would like to make suggestions or additions to this list of bullet points of things that we desire in our fiction, whether in comics or in novels. And I will speak to you again on Monday night.